It just didn't seem right to DJ. A body found bludgeoned to death in a place known for peace through mutual understanding. But there she was, crumpled behind a tribute to composer Franz Liszt in the Hungarian Cultural Garden. He pulled out his cell phone and dialed 911. "What is the nature of your emergency?" the dispatcher queried. With a suddenly very dry mouth, DJ managed to get out. "There's been a murder in the Cultural Gardens." Hi everybody, I'm Dan Hanson, the author of Murder in the Cultural Gardens, and we're sitting here in the Hungarian Garden by the Liszt monument where the whole book starts, the whole story starts right here. I want to welcome all the Lakewood Public Library viewers, and thanks for this opportunity, and all you other viewers. Today I want to talk a little bit about the book. I want to talk a little bit of how I got to write it and some of those author type things. But I also want to talk about the Cultural Gardens, which are really the highlight of the book. And here I am on a kind of cold April day to show you a little about it. So all 30 plus Cleveland Cultural Gardens are covered in this book. They're the background for the story, and hopefully the readers will learn about the gardens and some more about this unique treasure while they're enjoying this whodunit mystery. And it is a whodunit mystery, Murder in the Cultural Gardens. It's a kind of story that I like to read. It's a murder mystery. There's a unlikely trio of heroes, a modern day mod squad, if you will, who are in the gardens. They stumble upon some crimes going on and end up helping to solve them. For you people younger than me, you might have to Google what Mod Squad is, but take my word for it. It was a fun TV show back in the late 60s or so. It wasn't a clear path for me to write this book. I have a bachelor in science and a master's in science and mathematics, so I've always been a math and science geek. I started my computer company, Magnum Computers, back when the IBM PC was first coming out. And that was about the same time that Michael Dell was starting his computer company down in Austin, Texas. Unfortunately for me, Michael Dell did a lot better with Dell computers than I did with Magnum Computers, but that's another story. So, had a good computer business, still have, but things changed. We did a lot of programming, we built hardware, we built custom PCs, all of that, and that stuff became a commodity, really. Hardware got really cheap. Programmers were doing things overseas for a few dollars an hour, and this thing called the internet was coming around. So we saw that with the internet and evolved the business, changed it, and started doing websites, both for other companies and for our own. And our own websites were all Cleveland-centric. So we had clevelandseniors.com, for example, for those 50 and over, clevelandwomen.com and things like that. And they're still running and doing well. But we noticed that when we did something, when we posted something on one of those websites that had something to do with ethnic or cultural heritage, we'd get a big spike in visitors. So that led us to look at, do some research, and we found that Cleveland is the home of about 120 different ethnic groups represented by the people here. So that's very unique. Very few cities can claim that. And it's something to be proud of, it's something to take advantage of. So we started really researching that, and we came up with our website, clevelandpeople.com. So clevelandpeople.com is one of our most popular websites. It's been maybe 15 years now, and it covers all 120 or so different ethnic groups in town. So that led to a lot of research and activities here at these cultural gardens, which I discovered about 15 years ago. So clevelandpeople.com soon became a favorite. About half of our visitors are local, a quarter from outside Northeast Ohio, but still in the U.S., and about a quarter international. And it's a blast to do, to see the different heritages celebrated and promoted. So meanwhile, we're still doing the computer stuff, and I'm doing more and more writing. I was asked to write some articles for like PC Magazine and PC World, some tech articles, computer articles, things like that. So I was writing those, and then I got, for 12 years, I wrote the monthly tech column for Inside Business Magazine. Inside Business is the sister publication of Cleveland Magazine. So I did this monthly tech column and really enjoyed the writing. But I'll tell you, if time ever drags to you, just sign yourself up for a monthly column. You'll be amazed how fast that month comes around every month. It's fast. And after 12 years of columns, that time really flew by. Cleveland Cultural Gardens are unique in the world. Back in 1896, John D. Rockefeller, yes, that John D. Rockefeller, donated some land to the city of Cleveland to celebrate the centennial of the city. So the land was around Doane Brook, went from Lake Erie up to University Circle. And great piece of property, about 254 acres. So it kind of sat there as a park. And then there was a civic-minded guy named Leo Weidenthal, who was a Shakespeare enthusiast. And around that time, 1916 or so, it was a worldwide celebration of the commemoration of Shakespeare's 300th anniversary of Shakespeare's death. So they were doing stuff all over the world. And Weidenthal, who was a Shakespeare enthusiast, wanted something to happen in Cleveland. So he was civic-minded, he petitioned, he did what he had to do, and he got this plot of land here on East Boulevard, and he made it into a Shakespeare garden. And they got this bust, made this bust of Shakespeare. They've got some other monuments and plaques and things like that. Royalty came and visited. Famous actors and actresses from England came. It was a really big deal. So they had this Shakespeare garden. So as time passed a little, it evolved into the British garden, because Shakespeare now was, 305 years after his death. That wasn't as big a deal. So it became the British garden to celebrate all things British culture. So Weidenthal, still civic-minded, he was of Jewish heritage, so he decided he got another piece of land basically across the street, and he turned it into what he called the Hebrew garden. So he created this Hebrew garden to celebrate Jewish Hebrew heritage. So now we've got two cultural gardens, the first two, and that was about 1926. So other gardens, other communities started to take note, and they saw, hey, there's two gardens, why don't we have one? So they started working on them, other communities. And not unexpectedly, the gardens that were established were those of communities that were here and established and have been here a while, so mostly Eastern European. So we saw gardens spring up for Italian, Polish, German, Hungarian, Irish, groups like that. They built up their gardens in the 30s and onward, and we started to see a string of Cleveland Cultural Gardens growing. As time went by, as people from different countries came here, the gardens changed too. They wanted their own gardens. So we started to see some from Asia and other places. So the Chinese garden, we see more from the Middle East. Last year, 2 years ago, we had our first garden dedicated from an African nation. That's the Ethiopian Cultural Garden. So now we have Syria and India and Pakistan and Lebanon and Ukraine and Turkey and Armenia, and there's a vast variety. So there's about 30 or 32 established gardens. There's about 10 in the works that are coming really soon, like Uzbek, France, Mexican, others, and about 15 other communities really want to get their gardens going too. In fact, we should have our first Hispanic garden soon. That's going to be the Colombian community, so we're excited about that. Okay, when I say we, I mean the city, of course, but the Cleveland Cultural Garden Federation. And that's a group of volunteers who are in charge of cleaning up, deciding on new gardens, approving new monuments, running the whole cultural garden system. And I've been on the board of that for about 15 years now, so it's a great honor to be part of that board and to steer this the cultural gardens. The gardens have grown just like the world has, like I say. As things change, we see different gardens. So there used to be a Yugoslav garden. Yugoslavia was broken up, so now we have Slovenian garden, we have a Serbian garden, we have a Croatian garden. So some of those countries that were part of Yugoslavia, as time evolves, those things happen. So I'm a huge fan of the gardens. The motto of the Federation is peace through mutual understanding. And that's something we learned that no matter what happens in the world, we can see how we can get along here. So the Armenian and Turkish garden are close together. India and Pakistan are close. Syria and Hebrew are close. Ireland and British are close. Some of these historically at odds countries are living here in the gardens and doing well and establishing this peace through mutual understanding. And through the gardens, and you can tell I'm a huge fan, Cleveland is the only city in the world with a large statue of Gandhi on a street named for Martin Luther King Jr. And right down the road is, in the Albanian garden, is a monument to Mother Teresa. And you'll see Copernicus and Tesla and scientists like that in gardens, as well as Bach and Beethoven and Liszt and composers, and you'll see poets, and it's just a real tribute to the culture and heritage of the people who are represented here in Cleveland. And it's been such a hidden treasure. I've seen about 7 different heads of states visit the gardens, Ireland and Hungary and Albania and others. I remember when Serbia, I remember when the Latvian president was here. He was just blown away that his little country had this nice big garden as a tribute to his heritage in a place called Cleveland, Ohio, thousands of miles away from his country. So people are learning about the gardens. It's not as much as a hidden treasure as it was, but it's still hidden. For 75 years, we've done something called One World Day, which is a festival here in all the gardens. And 2 years ago, we had over 35,000 people here for One World Day. We couldn't do it last year because of COVID, but we are doing it again this year, August 29th, Sunday, August 29th, 2021. So mark your calendars for that. We will have a One World Day this year again, so we're excited about that. So obviously I'm passionate about the Cleveland Cultural Gardens, but I was also getting passionate about my writing. I loved creating content for the websites. I like doing my inside business column and writing other stuff for some national publications. So these two passions started to come together. So I wanted to do a book about the Cleveland Cultural Gardens, and originally I thought to do a coffee table book because there's so many photo ops, just beautiful monuments and trees and plants and flowers. But I realized, people just weren't buying coffee table books. Only a handful of people would get it. I wanted the masses to learn about the cultural gardens and to get some of my writing out there. So I decided to go with the whodunit mystery and the setting of the cultural garden. So I've always been a fan of Les Roberts. I think he's a great writer. I love his Milan Yakovich stories. Read them all, some of them several times. I love how he intertwines Cleveland landmarks and settings with his good stories. And I've met Les, we've become friends. He sent me some great advice when I started writing, and I really like those, and I kind of wanted Murder in the Cultural Gardens to be kind of like what Les does with his Milan Yakovich stories. So I wanted to write a book that I would like to read. I like short chapters that all have some action in it. That's just my preference. I'm not a fan of over glossy descriptions and using every adjective that you ever heard, or trying to show people that I have an impressive vocabulary. None of that stuff. I'm not a fan of that. You may be, that's fine. But I wanted to write the book that I like to read, so that's how I did it. And two of my favorite authors, Hemingway and Mark Twain, they used words very sparingly. I think it was Mark Twain who has here a bust here in the Cleveland Cultural Gardens. Mark Twain said something once like, whenever you use whenever you use the word very, replace it with damn. So then when your editor sees it, they'll pull out the word damn anyway, and you'll be back to not using it. So for example, instead of saying it was very hot, just say it was hot. To me, that works better. Instead of it was very hot, it was hot. And that's what I like to read, so that's how I wrote it. Nothing wrong with the other way, just my personal preference. So I wish I did take some of Les Roberts' advice. How can you not? The guy's terrific. I wish I had, in the book, taken a little piece of his advice more. He said I should develop the characters more, the 3 main characters, and I wish I had. And I'm working on that in the next book. There will be more developed, and you'll learn more about them. And this modern mod squad. But the next book I'm working on is Murder in Asia Town, which takes place in Cleveland's old Chinatown and our newer Asia Town to the east. And yes, I do have plot outlines for Murder in the Flats, Murder in Tremont, Murder in the Heights, and maybe I'll even get to Murder in Lakewood soon. So these characters hopefully will be able to showcase Cleveland, Cleveland's neighborhoods, but also Cleveland's people, all in this setting of a fun, hopefully, whodunit mystery. So it's been fun writing the book. We started doing book clubs and then COVID hit, so we couldn't do it. But I get a lot of questions from people from either book clubs or online or Zoom meetings or something. A lot ask, is such and such character based on a real person? And sometimes it is, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's an amalgamation. One question I get that I want to clear up here once and for all, they ask about, has there really been a series of murders in the Cleveland Cultural Gardens? No, it's fiction. It's a safe place. It's a good place. Come on down, visit. You got to see it. This is a fiction set here. There's no serial killers here in the Cleveland Cultural Gardens. Several figured out some Easter eggs I have hidden in the book, and good for them. Maybe when you read it, you'll figure them out too. Let me know if you do. The most asked question I get, it's funny, there's a location in the book called the Cleveland Cultural Gardens Coffee Shop at the top of the, basically where the Irish Garden is. And people ask, where's the coffee shop? We want to go there, we want to get a souvenir, all this stuff. Unfortunately, that's fictional. So there is no Cleveland Cultural Garden coffee shop here, but I'm happy to say that the interest is there, and now some people are working on maybe developing something here in the garden. So maybe we'll have that Cleveland Cultural Gardens coffee shop here that you can visit someday. So even though I'm a first-time author, I get questions at the book clubs about, what advice I would give to budding authors, and that's crazy because I'm learning every single day, and certainly not an expert. My 3 pieces of advice would be, write about something you know and love. If I didn't know the gardens like the back of my hand, if I haven't traveled every square inch of these gardens, the research I would have had to do to make this authentic and make the settings accurate would have been overwhelming. I never would have finished the book. So write about what you know. The second piece of advice, I've kind of touched on this, is write the book you want to read. So like I say, I like short chapters with action in each one. I don't like a lot of verbiage. I like getting right to the point and having things move along. That's what I like to read, so that's how I wrote it. If you have different preferences, certainly write the book you want to read. And third, obviously it's a cliche, but just start writing. There's never a perfect time to write your book. I did most of the writing for Murder in the Cultural Gardens in hospitals and rehab centers when my family members had health issues. So I'd be sitting there, it could be 3 in the morning, it could be 1 in the afternoon, whatever, and just trying to change my thoughts from the health issues, and had a laptop or a notepad and just wrote, and it worked, and I got to tweak it and refine it and come up with the book. I do have a website cleverly called murderintheculturalgardens.com. So you can go there, you can learn a little more about the book. You can order it there, you can get it, if you don't get it from the library, you can get it on Amazon, you can get it at Max Books on Coventry and other places like that. Besides reading the book, I really hope you visit clevelandpeople.com and the Cleveland Cultural Gardens. You really have to see them. And it's such a blast seeing the different heritages and see how we have some differences, but more and more we're all alike. There's some tweaking here and there, but we're the same person, whether we came from Syria or Puerto Rico or Ethiopia or Ireland. There's all these basic things, and we learn that lesson at clevelandpeople.com. We learn that lesson in the Cleveland Cultural Gardens. So if you have any questions, I'd love to hear from you, or feedback. My email is dan@clevelandpeople.com, dan@clevelandpeople.com. I'd love to hear from you. I'd like to thank Lakewood Public Library and all of you for the opportunity to talk about the book and talk about the Cultural Gardens. Love to hear more from you, and thanks for watching. I hope to see you live soon.